Real quick, I want to talk about something. Don't mind the bag on my head. I'm moisturizing my dreads. Fuck you. I don't give a shit. Um, yeah, I really don't care what people think. So I don't care. You call me grandma, auntie, fucking misfit, whatever you want to call. I'll give you the jokes. Anyways, I just want to talk about Ice Cube reaching across enemy lines to work with Trump. Y'all need to stop tripping, trying to cancel the motherfucker. He's not going Kanye, everybody. No, Ice Cube is an intellectual. He's smart. Okay, sometimes he's a little racist though. He kind of reminds me of Louis Farrakhan in that way. Like nothing he says is wrong for the most part until he starts generalizing and stereotyping like other races and other ethnicities like Jews and shit. And I think he's pulled back on a lot of that anti-Semitism shit that he used to be on in the '90s because he was beefing with his producer or his record label manager in NWA. But never mind all that, okay? I agree with most of what Ice Cube says, and in this instance I agree with what he did. Now, I hate Trump more than anybody, and you know who else hates Trump more than anybody? Ice Cube. Yeah. But look here. What their side does to us all the time is they take our willingness to compromise and reach across the aisle. Every time we do, they take an inch, and then they take a mile, and then they take 10 miles, and then they take 20 miles, and before we know it, our compromises become a completely one-sided relationship. But just because we tried to compromise, they trick us into getting in that position all the time. It's like in wrestling when your opponent at the end of the match goes to shake your hand, and you go to shake their hand, and then he kicks you in the fucking nuts. That's what Republicans always do. And I think what Ice Cube is trying to do, what he's attempting to do here, is give them a taste of their own medicine. You know, some of us are going to have to become monsters to win this fight. You know, Friedrich Nietzsche's old quote, those who hunt monsters to destroy monsters should take special care not to try so hard to destroy the monster that they end up becoming the monster themselves. Now, I think it's too late for that. There was a time, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, maybe longer, maybe shorter. I'm not really sure. I'd have to really break out the history books and pinpoint when it all changed. But I think there was a time in the past that, I don't know, man, even though America had done some foul shit, a lot of foul shit, I think our hearts were always in the right direction, at least collectively, at least after the 50s. I think Emmett Till and all the fucking crazy evil shit. See, because by the 50s, we had become a more civilized nation. So, for the average husband and wife and neighbor and people living in the neighborhood, a lynching was fucking gruesome and horrifying. Like, you may hate black people. You may growing up buying into all that racist shit that your uncles and grandparents told you, but then if you never seen anybody murdered or killed, and you see somebody hanging from a tree with their guts hanging out, and in the 50s there was a lot of that. There was a lot of sheltered people getting exposed to some pretty horrifying things, and Emmett Till is the best example of that. And that changed everything. And I think ever since probably around that time, I really feel like the majority of Americans, and Americans as a collective, as an ideal, as the American ideal, our hearts were always, the majority, enough of a majority of us that we made progress. Our hearts were in the right place, going in the right place, away from the Native American genocide, away from slavery, away from segregation, away from bigotry, away from discrimination. And And I hate to say this, but that all kind of changed after Obama's second term. And I'll tell you why it was the second term and not his first. The second term is what was needed for him to lose the election so that his legacy, he wouldn't have the legacy, which goes to show you the short-sightedness of racists, because they were so militant and up in arms in the first Obama election to make sure he didn't get elected, to try to stop him from getting elected, and it didn't work. If they had stopped the second term, they could have said that he was a lame duck and he didn't get anything done. Typical black guy. See what happens when we make a black guy. They would have had their opportunity to do that, but they failed at that. So instead, they started chipping away at the fundamentals of what America and American democracy have always represented when it comes to equality and truth and justice. They started chipping away at it bit by bit, and to the point where good white people were having bad thoughts. And 2016 was a real big example of that. A lot of good white people having a lot of bad ideas and bad thoughts, like white genocide. I think even your average, non-racist, normal white person at this point is subconsciously afraid of white genocide. White fucking genocide. Come on. Nobody's putting y'all in concentration camps, rounding you up, putting your names on lists. There is no white genocide. Please stop it. Just because people are getting more dark-skinned every fucking... Get over it, guys. And you know what I figured out? White people are really the minority in the world. And I think at one time they got treated like the minorities like a million years ago. And when they figured out how to, like, I don't know, maybe they were more technologically advanced or something, who knows, but they figured out how to take the power. And I think what we're seeing is like an Attack on Titan scenario, where the people that were oppressed are now in power, and fast forward a million years later, and they still remember when they were the oppressed ones. Because think about it for a second, right? Europe is in the middle of the globe, right? So, like, look, you got Europe, you got the globe, right? Here's Europe. There's Europe right in the middle. This little area right here, right? And right underneath is Africa, and then there's North America, which back in the day, that was Inuits and Native Americans. And then you have South America, and then Asia, right? And Europe's in the middle. That's the only spot on the entire planet that white people originate from. The rest of the planet, and I came to this idea when I was watching ATL, and somebody said, "Are black people brunettes?" And I got to thinking, are they? That's weird, right? And then I was like, what about Asians? Are they brunettes? They all have black hair. And Latinas, are they brunettes? And I got to thinking, I was like, wait a minute. Every other continent, every other area in the world is brown skinned, dark haired, dark eyed people. And then here comes the European with blonde hair, blue eyes, red hair, green eyes, all these different fucking colors. There had to be a time in the past where white people were the freaks. Had to be. Where y'all were the ones that were like, what's wrong with them? How do they have green eyes? Oh, and then they got like shit on for it by the rest of the world who looked like each other. And somehow y'all flipped the script. I couldn't even tell you how. Eugenics or some shit. But yeah, fucking it's pretty crazy, man. It's just a theory. It's just a working theory. But yeah, all Ice Cube was doing was going behind enemy lines and trying to play the bad guys like a fiddle. And I commend him for doing that. I think that's a fantastic idea. So I support Ice Cube. End of story. Fuck the police. Coming straight from the underground.